Live from the Spill Studios, located behind a liquor store off the I-35 interchange, it's time once again for a couple of cold ones with Corey and Carla.
Yes, sir. Time once again. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm all right. How was your Valentine's Day weekend?
I was all right. It was a Valentine's Day weekend.
Just another excuse to spend money.
Yes, it was.
Did you go out to eat?
Oh, yeah, we hit the KFC, baby.
Oh, man, got that grilled chicken. Now, that's fancy. You know, you put some candlelight to that shit, it's romantic as hell.
Yeah. In fact, what we did is we stepped it up a notch. We didn't just go to the KFC. We went to the KFC / Long John Silver's.
Oh, man, now that is...
Joint one where she got the choice of chicken or fish.
I was about to say, now that is...
yeah.
That's love. When you give your girl the choice in shitty fast food, then you are a true romantic. Actually, you know what? I ain't gonna lie, man. I don't eat it as much these days, but I used to eat the hell out of KFC and Long John Silver's. When I had my two favorite fried foods in one place, I thought that was like heaven on earth.
That is kind of the Bachelor, the center of the Bachelor universe right there.
It is. It is. I don't eat as much fried food today. I haven't stepped in. Actually, don't let me lie. I went to Long John Silver's about 2 weeks ago, but they have salmon. You know, they don't just serve fried stuff anymore. I mean, you know, the fast food places are trying to become healthy, so I was able to buy some salmon and some rice.
Oh, not this one.
Well, that one you went to, they just like, nah, fried everything.
I ordered the they only have like 2-piece meals, so you've got to upsize it and upsize it for an extra piece. It's like, here's a piece, and it says a piece and an extra side for $1.99. I said, you know what? I'll take the piece and the extra side, and for the extra side, you'll have the fries. Excuse me? Oh yeah, you only get the fries with that.
I was hoping I could get a salad, fries.
Gonna get kind of mashed potatoes and some mac and cheese. You'll get mashed potatoes and fries.
Okay, and I guess I'll have a large Coke. Would you like that crispy, extra crispy? A fucking Coke? Yes, crispy, extra crispy. We fry that shit too. Man, damn, you're killing me, man. I can't tell you how much I drive. I start fiending when I drive by KFC because I want fried chicken so much from KFC, but I don't eat it, man. I stay away from this shit. So I'm a good guy these days. But yeah, so did you do it Saturday night? Or did you take it to the KFC on Saturday night or on Sunday?
Oh, it's tonight, baby.
Tell me at least you brought a rose before you walked in and all that that greasy crispiness.
Nope.
No. What'd you say? Shit, I got a whole bucket. What more you want me to do? God damn it.
No, actually, I surprised her with Valentine's Day last night. So it was she got ambushed with Valentine's last night. So tonight we hung out. We don't like doing the whole Valentine's thing on Valentine's night because every place is fucking packed, and several of the places you go will change the menu for that night and charge more.
Yeah.
For the same fucking shit.
Yeah.
Or they'll dress it up a bit and they'll be, oh no, it's special tonight, and you've got to wait an hour and a half to get charged more. So what we normally do is we normally do a Valentine's Day lunch, but when it's a weekend, we try to do it on an off day and celebrate it together rather than having to deal with all the Valentine's Day bullshit. So she had totally forgotten that, and she knew Valentine's Day was coming and just had totally put off us doing anything, and so I got her last night on it.
So when you say you ambushed her, so she walked through the door and you were laying on a fuzzy carpet with a thong on. Leopard print, I might add.
Why are you putting that image in people's heads? Why are you? Better question. Why are you thinking of me lying on a shag carpet wearing a thong?
Jealousy, man. You know, I was sitting up here all alone on Valentine's Day thinking, you know, if Carlisle would just greet me as I walked through the door on a shag carpet with some leopard skin thong drawers on, that would make my Valentine's Day. But
I love how they're leopard skin draws.
Draws. You know, in my world, that's what they are.
For fuck's sake, dude, that is an image people don't need. People just don't need it.
Not just thongs, but thong draws.
I mean, now you've got people sitting there thinking of me with a little ball hanging out, and you know, it's not pretty. People don't want to think about that.
I'm
They
sure.
don't want to think about my ginormous man bulge with a little bit of that the skin coming out underneath the elastic.
Well,
That's not what people want to think
You
about.
think that? I'm sure Santos' mouth is watering right now. So.
Oh, man, why you gotta be like that?
Between you and a crispy fried drumstick from KFC, he's slobbering at the lips right now. But anyway, man, well, I'm glad your Valentine's Day went well, and I'm
Did
glad
yours go well?
Yeah, man, mine went well. I went to eat at a steakhouse. This place called Steiner Ranch, and that place is some class, man. I got something to tell you though about this, and a lot of people, I know it was like a racially charged weekend on the site after my comment on Percy Jackson, which I don't give a fuck if y'all got mad about it or not. But I swear to God, now you want to know why I say all this shit sometimes? Like you.
Well, actually, catch me up. I have not been on the site this weekend. What's everybody flipping out about?
I don't know if they're flipping out. I just know that I changed my thoughts on Percy Jackson. I mean, when we all talked about how the satyr in the movie, who is the actor that plays him is the guy from Tropic Thunder, the black guy from Tropic Thunder, and we don't mean Robert Downey Jr. by the way, the real black guy. And so when I woke up, I thought,
wait, Robert Downey Jr. is not a real black guy. He's an imaginary black guy.
You know what? I really can't confirm that. I've lost track ever since that movie. I don't know if he's really white or if he's really black anymore.
I think he's such a great actor that was the first time he really let it all hang out and just let himself be a black man.
That's the first time he just like revealed to the world, I really am a black man.
But here's what we'll do. We'll do it in an ironic way so people think I'm still white.
Yeah, we don't want to lose that audience out there.
That way I can get in movies where I date white women. Because they won't let me do that otherwise.
Is that the trick? Oh, well, I'm just gonna start going to whiteface. No, when I woke up, yeah, hello, sir. When I woke up that day from a nap, it's not like I woke up that morning like just changed my mind. I was editing the review that day, and then I laid down to take a nap because I was just tired. I laid down for about 30 minutes, and I got up, and I thought, man, that character, it really just bothered me. I didn't rail against the movie. I wasn't upset. So I put just a little preface at the beginning of the review saying, okay, I know I said that I give it this rating. I know we normally don't do this. We change our ratings, but that character just really bothered me. And based on that alone, I'm probably going to lower my review a little bit. But take what you will out of the review. Don't let me ruin the review for you because it's pretty funny. And so, it just went back and forth on the site where people, well, I don't know if it went back and forth. It stopped after a while. I hadn't slept, so I jumped on a couple of people because one guy came in and he was like, oh, Corey's being a racial dumbass again. And I was like, okay, you know what? Fuck you. What do you mean by I'm a racial dumbass? And at this point, I hadn't had any sleep, so I was like,
I know how it is.
Yeah, and I just told,
I've been on the opposite end of that chair.
Now, I didn't go crazy. I just told the guy, I was just like, hey, look, you need to explain to me before I say something really crazy to you and kick you off the site. You need to explain to me, which I wasn't going to kick him off the site. I was just talking, just puffing my feathers.
I'm hearing you and what you had going on in your head, but knowing you for so long, I know how it actually came out. It had to be something like, all right, motherfucker, what the fuck you talking about?
No, it didn't go that far. That was going to be the harsh part. I said, before I say something harsh to you and kick you off the site, explain to me how I'm a racial, quote unquote, dumbass. And I was like, hey, if you want to talk this out, if you want to even disagree with me, if you want to get in a little bit of a slightly heated debate, that's fine. But don't sit up here calling me a dumbass. And then it kind of escalated from there with a lot of members. It was like a lot of people fuck you. They can share their opinions, and people were just debating race and whatnot. So and it actually was okay. I have to say, but by the time I got off, I didn't want to upset myself, so I didn't go back in there. But by the time I got off, people were actually debating instead of going back and forth yelling at each other. So the last thing I want to do is make it seem like I'm just having this racially charged weekend. But I swear to you, I shit you not. So I go to the Steiner Ranch. I sit down, I have a steak, and behind me, now this is a really expensive place that's kind of far out of town, and I was the only black person in the place. No big deal about that. Nobody's even taking count of this. They weren't mean to me. The staff was really cool, but behind me, there was this table. In the moment I sit down, someone has ordered the beer, Negro Modelo. And I hear I like niggas this and niggas that, and I hear somebody say, come on now, be careful, no racial humor. And I turn around and I immediately lock eyes with one of the wives of those people at that table. And the table it's full of these guys who are just kind of like these middle-aged professional looking white guys who had that Texas drawl, Yeah, I'll tell you about. Come on, I like niggers now. And I'll just stop and look at this woman, and this woman and I must have shared the most uncomfortable glance for about 30 seconds, and you could see her mumbling to the guys around it, like, guys.
This crazy black guy is staring at me, and he's really fucking creepy.
and I just shook my head and turned back around.
Your lips.
Hey,
You're
baby.
Like, white meat.
I know. I told the waiter, I have that. But no, I didn't do it. I just looked at her. She looked at me, and she was trying to quiet the table down. I just turned back around, and you could hear the table get quiet for about a minute. And I just kind of shook my head and laughed it off. And I was just like, wow. And I didn't even get that mad because I was like, hey, look, I know how people talk when there's not people around. I know that. But I just find it really, I just found it kind of dumb that this table was being that loud with it. I mean, because I know that some other people around them and they were being loud, and they were just, you could see these people just kind of like, geez, this is the loudest fucking table in here. So, I mean, if you're going to have that kind of humor, I mean, I know people joke like that. Kind of keep it to yourself. But you don't need to, like, talk all loud and belligerently and let the whole fucking restaurant hear you. So, that was like,
Take it from Corey. He has first-hand experience.
Yeah, believe you me. So that was my experience at the steakhouse. So just one of the many reasons why I constantly talk about race people, because I experience this shit in ways that you don't even know half the time. I don't even bring up half this shit.
He heard Negro Modelo and he lost.
I know. I thought I heard Negro.
That's why he talks about this.
I'll have a Negro Modelo. Nigga, what? What you say? Huh? Go and just flip the table over. No, Can I have a Negro
Modelo, please? Negro, please. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'd knock out the waiter and bring it over there in my safe. But no, you know me. I wouldn't like just go crazy because I heard that. I actually heard them like making jokes. And I remember hearing it at first, and I was like, are they saying what I think they're saying? I was like, nah, I'm not gonna go crazy about that. And then I heard, all right, guys. And the woman must have saw me, and because everybody had their back turned to me or were just into their conversation. So this woman must have saw me, and that's when she was just kind of like, okay, guys, no racial humor, and she was just trying to like ease out of it. So I was like, whatever, man. Whatever. Hey, Valentine's Day, it was good. They're having a good time. They got mixed up in the moment. I was in a loving mood. No problem with me or them or anybody else.
A self-loving mood.
Yes, and that too by the end of the night. So, anyway, man, you want to get into the top 5?
The top 5, brought to you by Spill.
All right. A lot of people probably not going to like the results of the top 5 this weekend, but it is what it is. Starting with number 5.
The number 5 movie of the week.
Dear John, that movie from the writer of The Notebook, Nicholas Sparks. The movie had just a slamming opening weekend. Like I told you, the teenage girls and women just flocked to see this film, making it the movie that knocked out Avatar. Now, that's not because Avatar was knocked out by that great of a movie. It was just time for Avatar to be knocked out. Could have been anything. But nevertheless, the movie has grossed $53.2 million right now, brought in $15.3 million this weekend. The movie cost $25 million to make, so in 2 weeks it has done very well with its profit.
Yep, it sure has.
So let's go to number 4.
The number 4 movie of the week.
Speaking of Avatar, Avatar has finally been slipping out not only of its number 1 spot, but slowly creeping out of the top 5. It is now at number 4, and it brought in $22 million this weekend. So far, though, it has grossed $659.6 million, and its worldwide gross is $2.35 billion.
Well, now, what's important to note, though, while it slipped in place this week, it only had a drop of about 3%.
Yes.
It did just as well as it did last week, which is still incredibly well for this long of a run. It's in, week 8? Week 9?
Not week 9.
And to still be not only in the top 5, but to still be pulling down $22 million in a weekend where it's not far behind the number 3 and number 2 movies.
Yeah.
So it's still doing really well.
No, $22 million would be, for a small film, that would be great to open up on an opening weekend on a Friday. So $22 million is still a hefty chunk of money for a movie that's been out for 9 weeks. So, but everybody knows about Avatar. It's made all the money in the world. So we don't need to really talk about that anymore. You're probably sick of hearing about how successful that movie is.
So we can now talk about number 3.
All right. Now here's where it gets interesting, because we have 3 movies that premiered this weekend, and they are in the top three. Two of them very close, and as of Friday, you couldn't tell which one was going to be in second or third place. But as of right now, it's worked out this way. Number 3 is The Wolfman.
The Wolfman.
The Wolfman brought in $30.6 million on its opening weekend. Not crazy business because the movie cost $150 to make. I don't even know how it's doing overseas right now. So
yeah, we'll see. It was one of those movies that was really weird. People just weren't interested, and the reviews were tepid. You know, we all liked it, but we didn't love it.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody. I haven't read one review yet where anybody's gone crazy over the film. I've read anywhere from bad to it's all right.
Oh, I've seen a couple where a few people really fell for it, but strong minority. Most everybody either didn't like it or liked it but didn't love it.
Yeah, a lot of your more mainstream reviewers really didn't care for it, and some of your smaller people liked it. But yeah, you're right. Probably maybe. I haven't read any, but I'm sure that there's always going to be somebody who loves something out there, and the Wolfman is no different. Like what?
Like that guy Armand White.
Oh, is that a critic?
Yeah, he's a guy who's well known for being a contrarian.
Oh, Jesus.
He goes. One of his worst movies of last year was Up, but in his top 10 list included Next Day Air.
Okay, see, that's a guy. I probably have read this guy before and just refused.
You'd punch this guy in the face, man. You hate this guy.
Jesus, why could you not really hate a guy like that? Somebody who's very transparent about trying to be contrary. Fuck that dude, man. Anyway, let's go to number 2.
Now, what was the number on that?
It was $30.6 million.
Okay, keep that in mind because this is one of those situations where it very well might the number 2 and the number 3 spot might change considerably.
Yeah, because number 2, I'm waiting for you to say.
The number 2 film.
Now, did you sing that to your honey on Valentine's Day with your big greasy lips, big greasy fried chicken lips?
Why would I sing to her about going number 2?
I don't know. Maybe you had to in the middle of dinner.
Really? Did I marry a German woman? Do you think we're making shots of films in here?
I didn't say you were going to take a number 2 on her. I just said, I figured, hey, you want to get up and go take a shit, and you want to do it in a nice romantic way. You're like, baby, I got a number 2, but not on you.
And I'm going to give you a rolling brownout.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, let's get on with this top 10 top 5, whatever it is, before we get nasty up in here. Already thinking about you with your balls hanging out of your fucking leopard skin.
See, why do you have to bring up my balls?
Draws
out of a leopard skin thong while I'm lying on a bearskin rug. You don't want anybody to think about me lying on a bearskin rug with my balls hanging out. Nobody out there's thinking about it now. In fact, they could easily get it out of their head at any moment.
Actually, I'd like to walk in and see a bear spooning you while you're wearing your leopard skin draws. But anyway, number 2 is Percy Jackson.
It's all about the white.
Why I gotta be white? But Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. Now, this is based on a popular series of books. If you listen to our review or if you know about the books, a lot of people showed up on Thursday night because I don't think they had school that Friday. A lot of people, at least in Austin, I don't know what was going on, but a lot of kids didn't have school that Friday. They all showed up at midnight to watch this film. So I'm thinking okay, this movie's gonna do pretty well. It made $31.1 million, so not gangbusters, but it's all right.
But a little under $500,000 more than The Wolfman.
Yes.
So depending on how reporting is, especially since The Wolfman has kind of a weird odd number of 30.627, and Percy Jackson is just 31.1. I mean, that could easily flip. Seeing the actuals change by that small an amount can substantially change the numbers.
Now, I have a question for you about Percy Jackson and this Lightning Thief, but I'm going to ask you that after we are done with the top 5. Let's go to now. Here's where people are probably going to either be happy or, if you're our audience, you're probably going to be really pissed about this. Number 1.
The number 1 film.
No, I was waiting to see just how long you ride this out. I was waiting until you lose your breath and just.
Oh, I could have taken that much longer, but really, we don't. I kind of have the lung power to carry that note for a while.
I was
don't fucking listen to that shit.
I was just picturing you turning
let's
blue.
move along to the number one.
I just saw you turning blue, and then all of a sudden I heard like, you just fall on the floor, Carla. But anyway, number one is Valentine's Day with $52.4 million. The movie cost $52 million. So if you don't account like marketing, then this movie broke even.
Theoretically. This is the one that I think is the weirdest. The numbers here are really wacky to begin with. I buy the estimated numbers for Friday and Saturday, and I buy that this is the number one film because it's number one by a long shot. But if you take a look at the numbers, they have estimated that on Valentine's Day, which I can understand why they'd estimate that the film Valentine's Day is going to do far better than it did on Friday or Saturday. They're estimating a $5 million upswing in people seeing the film, and I'm not convinced that's necessarily going to happen. I think they fudged those numbers a bit. Sundays are never higher than the rest of the weekend. This could be that rare exception, but it's also one of those things where I guess I wouldn't question it if the number they chose to estimate it at wasn't their budget, so that everyone could say, yeah, everybody hated the movie, but it made its budget back. I think it's definitely going to make its budget back over time, but and it may actually hit this weekend, but you'll want to check these numbers again tomorrow night when the actuals are posted, because it's a little dodgy with how much they tick that up. I have a feeling that most people who were going to see this movie probably saw it on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, they expect it to like reach not high, but I think between 60 and 65 million is what is reported before it actually starts to drop down. So who knows? I mean, it's a coincidence. I know that it's the same number as their budget, but I don't know, man. I don't have any reason not to believe that they didn't make this money, because I predicted that this movie would do well. I mean, they were smart. They released a movie called Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day, and
starring everyone.
Yeah, and they got tons of stars to be in here. I'm surprised the movie didn't do better, and I wasn't even crazy about the film. So, yeah, good strategy there. Perfect date film for people. We'll see tomorrow how well it does actually. It might even be more by the time tomorrow comes around. I don't know.
It's so weird, though. I have not met a single person who has liked this film. Like, everybody's hating on this thing.
Yeah, but, man, it's our friends who are telling us they don't like this movie, and it's the critics who say it's the critics who say they don't like this movie, but really, it's a date film. It's one of those movies that's critic proof. So,
well, sure,
yeah.
It was a critic proof movie, but that doesn't stop it from being a crap fest.
No, I have to say it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but still, it is a very, very mediocre film. Like I said, if you saw our review, you know what we're talking about. So, the thing I want to ask you about Percy Jackson here and the Olympians. Now, we always talk about how these movies come out that want to be the next Harry Potter franchise. We mentioned like the Vampire's Assistant and what was that other movie? You know what I'm talking about.
Well, there's a couple. There's Aragon. There's Secret of the Dark Rising.
The Golden Compass.
Golden Compass.
Yeah. So there's been several movies, and what they've done is they've ended the movie with a cliffhanger because they were just so confident that they were going to have 2 more movies out after this. But the one thing that Percy Jackson didn't do, and we talked about this in our review, is that it did not end on a cliffhanger. It was a self-contained film. Now, being that this movie has brought in $31.1 million this weekend, do you think that this movie is going to be good enough to have a sequel?
Good enough?
I mean, did you think? Okay, do you think
it'll do strong enough? To make.
Do you think it made enough to actually be able to foster a sequel?
Well, it all depends. This is one of those things where it's going to depend on Fox. They're claiming that it cost $95 million.
Yes.
If that's the case, this movie will probably make somewhere between $50 and $60 million here in the States based upon what it makes. Generally, on average, you can guess what a film's total take will be by multiplying its opening weekend by 2. That's just kind of what the market's become. unless it's really good and has what they call, legs. But so if it makes that, you can assume that it also, being a genre film, will make twice as much in foreign than it makes in domestic. So when all is said and done, based upon this opening weekend, Percy Jackson could make a total of $180 million. That with marketing and such theatrically worldwide, they'll have made their money back plus a tidy profit. And then you have DVD, and they'll do well on DVD based upon the type of material it is. So it's entirely possible that, being Fox, if this profits at all, we probably will see a sequel, unless people really hated it, which they didn't. Everyone was just kind of like, on it.
Yeah, I think this is what that kind of movie where it could have a sequel. I mean, because a lot of people, they look at box office numbers. I mean, a movie can even do well on DVD, but it's that box office performance that they want to have decide whether the movie merits a sequel or not. And next week, it could still do strong, because next week it only has really just one movie to compete with as far as a newcomer, and that is Shutter Island, which is going to be a rated R film. So this movie can still retain its audience and still actually garner enough box office to make a sequel with.
It really depends on how the kids walked out, because really the big test is going to be Monday morning. Monday morning, tomorrow morning, or this morning, when everybody walks into school and some kids are like, I didn't get to see Percy Jackson this weekend. If all the kids act like they did at our screening, at the one that me and Cyrus went to, where they just kind of all walked out and were like, that wasn't really all that good. If that's how they react tomorrow morning, we may see a major dip this weekend as kids are like, it's not cool to see Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Yeah.
If the kids dug it, even if nobody else dug it, if on the whole the kids had a good time, then the word of mouth will spread and the kids will go and see it next weekend as well. So it's really – I'm really curious to see how big of a drop it has next weekend, to see. That's really going to tell us whether or not we will see another Percy Jackson film. If it doesn't have much of a drop at all, if it stays within the $20 to $30 million range, we could definitely be seeing a Percy Jackson film. I've seen that it's already slated. They've already kind of announced that they're making, I think it's called Sea of Monsters next.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean anything.
Well, yeah, they've got all kind of stuff planned, and those things never get done. I mean, the movie's not going to be in the $30 million range. It's going to. I doubt if it will barely even make the $20 million that it could possibly make had it been a better film. But that's going to be the biggest thing to see, especially with this movie having no real competition for its audience that next weekend. Yeah, if the movie drops major, then. Yeah, I doubt if you will see a sequel, but who knows? Who knows? I actually like the concept of this movie. But see, here's the deal, man. Everybody wants the next Harry Potter, but all these series that they're pulling from, it is not the phenomena that Harry Potter is. I mean, Percy Jackson, I can guarantee you not everybody has heard about Percy Jackson the way everybody knows who Harry Potter is. So you can't keep picking these films hoping that lightning is going to strike twice with that series.
Well, but what you have to keep in mind is that they're not just thinking in terms of Harry Potter. They're thinking in terms of Lord of the Rings. They're thinking Harry Potter isn't the only one to do this. And Lord of the Rings, despite having longevity on the shelves, hasn't sold the kind of numbers that Harry Potter did. I mean,
well, they're also looking at. I mean, you say
each of these books is 60 to 70 million dollars, or 60 to 70 million copies worldwide.
Well, even something like I mean, you say Lord of the Rings. I would actually say they're trying to repeat the business of something like the Chronicles of Narnia, which. Was a very, at least the first movie was a huge success for Disney at the time, and
Sure.
I think these movies actually want to kind of, if not Harry Potter business, they want to do Narnia business, and
well, sure.
These movies, these books aren't even as big or well known as something like Narnia. I mean, Narnia is known by generation upon generation. A lot of these books that are coming out right now, they really have a very specific audience, and they don't even have the cross appeal of something like Harry Potter or even Narnia. So.
Right. All I'm saying is that Harry Potter isn't the only one that's profited huge. And so somebody's going to point out, well, it doesn't have to be as big as Harry Potter. Look at Lord of the Rings. And, of course, look at Narnia. Of course, those had generations where the parents – I mean, my mother gave me a copy of The Hobbit when I was in third grade. And she's like, I read this growing up. I want you to read this growing up. So,
yeah.
I mean – my mother was really excited. My father hadn't even read the books and didn't even know what the Lord of the Rings movies were. And here's my mother, this very middle America Fox watching housewife who's like, we have to go to the Lord of the Rings movies. I loved those books when I was a little girl. So, no, you're right. You don't have that same kind of they don't have that wild success, but something like Percy Jackson and the Olympians did have a large following. And so you know that these guys sitting at Fox have kind of pointed out, well, it's not only Harry Potter, it's this, this, and this. So this is doing well. We think this might be able to carry it. But I agree with you overall. I think that I think that they keep pulling from series hoping to win, but they keep making the mistakes that other series make. The reason why Lord of the Rings was so huge was because Peter Jackson is brilliant and made brilliant movies. And in fact, they did not count on those films doing well. They did not give Peter the budget for his final budget for doing post-production on the second two films until after the opening weekend of the Fellowship of the Ring. Well, it was the Fellowship of the Ring success that was hinging on whether or not we would get good special effects in the last two movies or shitty special effects.
Well, the Lord of the Rings series is just a different animal upon itself too.
Sure.
I mean, that's a different kind of audience. I mean, it's known by everybody. I mean, that movie it already was well drenched in our culture. I mean, we had generations of people who knew it. I mean, it just went outside that fantasy realm of audiences too. I mean, you had Leonard Nimoy writing a song about Bilbo Baggins. People grew up with the Rankin Bass Hobbit film. I mean, people remember Ralph Bakshi's The Lord of the Rings. I mean,
sure.
What do you have it? What do you call him? Robert Plant and what's the name of that band? Jesus. Led Zeppelin is writing songs about Mordor and I mean, it's like everybody knows Lord of the Rings. So I'd had generations upon generations upon generations of audiences built in who've been waiting for years and years for a big budget version of those books.
Sure, but that didn't have to. Those movies did well because they continued to do well, not just because they opened well. And what I'm getting at is the problem we're seeing here with a number of these other films like Aragon and Percy Jackson and The Secret of the Dark is Rising, is that not that the series they're drawing from are particularly bad because they have their followings, but that the movies themselves have been given to people and deprived of the kind of budgets they need, that you end up with these guys who are not great filmmakers without the budgets that you'd need to lavish on a film, like with the Chronicles of Narnia. I don't believe that director is incredible, and I'm blanking on his name at the moment. I don't believe he is an incredibly talented or visionary director, but Disney gave him everything he needed to make that film, which is why that film looked pretty and why it appealed to people. And they did have a strong enough story to carry it through, even in the goofy moments, like when Santa shows up and such like that. But the movie overall worked, and the problem with these films is they're not working. And like Percy Jackson doesn't work.
Well, I just look at something like the Golden Compass, which was very controversial series of books, as well as a series of books that appealed to a certain audience, and it had a good director. I mean, was it Paul Weiss, the director of About a Boy,
and the director of New Moon?
Yeah, well, that's way down the line, but he also did American Pie. Let's not forget that. But I mean, I'm looking at it's just that I'm one of those people who was not the biggest fan of American Pie.
I don't like American Pie.
Yeah, but I look at that movie and I'm just like, for a book, I'm sure that this works, but for a movie, I just don't see any wide appeal with this. I really think that was unless they, given to a skilled enough screenwriter and director, it might have worked, but for the most part, I just did not see that book working as a movie to get the business that they kind of wanted.
Me and Leon sat down, and he explained to me how the book ended, and he explained that this film actually leaves out a major antagonist. And one of the things this movie lacked was a real antagonist. That was one of the problems I had with the film. Was
you talking about Percy Jackson?
Yeah. It was a quest movie to a certain extent, where he's given this quest to run around and collect these 3 pearls so that he can go to hell and save his mother. And it's just an excuse to get him in strange situations that cause him peril, and he has to get out of it. And in the movie, or I'm sorry, in the book, apparently Ares, the god of war, plays a big part and is constantly messing with him and throwing him off track and getting in his way, and serves as a red herring for what's really going on in the story. But completely lacking that, this movie's just so transparent, and when everything happens, it just feels too cheap and easy. And it's clearly one of those situations where the screenwriter and the director being Chris Columbus, they didn't tell a good story. They took the worst possible elements and highlighted those to make this movie, and didn't tell the kind of movie that the book really could have led.
Yeah, it was. They made one of those major mistakes of there was so much story there, and they had to take out some things. But instead of taking out the things that really helped the story, they took out the things that instead would push the action and make the movie go faster. And that's why you got a really bad story. Which is why, you know what? I thought some things were really cool in the movie. I love the effects with some of the monsters in the film. Not all of them, but most of them. I was like, this is actually pretty cool. It's a shame it's not a better film. So I hope that if they move on to make a second film, it is one of those situations where they say, we probably could have done better, money-wise and critically, if we had done this. Let's not make that mistake with this second film. Let's make this a real, true film. And maybe they'll do what they did with Harry Potter. Maybe they'll get another director.
Maybe they'll dump Chris Columbus and get somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, like what was his name? Alfonso Cuarón, who did my favorite film in the Harry Potter series, the third one.
Me too.
Yeah.
Prisoner of Azkaban is the best, hands down, of the series.
Yeah.
I know we're in the minority. A lot of Harry Potter fans really strongly dislike that one.
Why?
Why? Because they feel that it left out too much stuff. The thing is that was the Harry Potter movie for people who haven't read Harry Potter. That if you have not read the Harry Potter books, that's the one where you watch it, and he made a real cohesive film where the only things he left out were the superfluous things that fans wanted, but that were unnecessary to tell a really great classic story.
Yeah, see, I remember when I saw that movie, it was like the third film, and I was like, wow, that was such a departure from the first two movies. And not only was this like a really great Harry Potter movie, I remember that year where I was like, this is like one of the best movies I've seen this year. That's amazing what they've done. If they can keep along this track with the rest of these films, this is going to be a great ride. But so, who knows? Some of these movies, I really root for them, and I just hope that they get better if they give it another chance. So anyway, man, in some other news, they threw your man off a plane.
Oh, Kevin Smith. Yeah, he's a little pissed right now.
Yeah, I remember reading that story, and I was like, first, okay, if you haven't heard the story, people, I'm sure you'll tell me a few things and details, Carlisle. But the story is that Kevin Smith was on a plane, and he was going back to California, and he was going on Southwest. And the captain came up and asked him to leave the flight or leave the plane before they took off because Kevin Smith, they basically was too fat. Now, normally Kevin Smith, when he rides a plane, he said this himself, he'll buy 2 seats because he knows he's a big guy. But I guess he was on standby for this plane. They put him in 1 seat, and he was considered a risk because he was too heavy. So they asked him to be removed from the plane. And so he's like really pissed off, writing all kind of tweets about it. And my question is, why the fuck was he riding Southwest? And I don't know any better. So when I think about directors and famous people, I think about them riding first class on some really posh airline. And Southwest, as we know, that's the cheap peanut flight.
Well, Southwest is the Greyhound of the skies. I mean, they cut back on a lot of the amenities, and they have. I ended up flying on them, and you know what? To be perfectly honest, I'm really torn on this. This is one of those things where it's easy to make jokes about this, and I don't think it's a really good. I'm not really a fan of making jokes of this kind of situation because there is a certain indignity to how he was treated. But at the same time, I rode on Southwest recently, and I ended up getting sat next to a morbidly obese person. I had I had checked in online and gotten myself a window seat because I like a window seat. And then this person who is morbidly obese comes in and sits down and is literally the fat of their stomach is coming over the armrest onto my leg, literally. I mean, I could not work, and the person would not make eye contact with me because she knew what she was doing, and it was the most uncomfortable I have been on a flight ever, and at the same time, I was furious. Thankfully, it was just an hour and a half leg of the flight and not my 4-hour leg of the flight, because I really would have lost my mind. But, here's the situation where I know I've seen Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith is bigger than that woman that was sitting next to me. And that would have been a very uncomfortable situation for whoever had to sit next to them, on top of the fact that they probably felt like they couldn't say anything because, oh, my God, what am I going to say? This fat guy is fucking Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith, I mean, look, he's a big dude. And my whole thing is like, if you know that you need 2 seats and you're being put on standby, then maybe you should wait till you can get 2 seats, because I have also been in that situation where somebody as big is sitting next to me, and maybe they should have had an extra seat to themselves. Now, I don't like the fact that some people have to be told that they're too big, and nobody knows at this point. Nobody knows what happens. They say that nobody's saying anything about the captain that did this. All we're hearing is the tweets and rants of Kevin Smith, and if it's, I don't want to see anybody have to be singled out and told you're too fat for this flight. Can you come off? I can't even picture somebody doing that. I've ridden Southwest before, and they not only are they very fun sometimes because they just have this sense of humor, knowing that they're very cheap flights and they're a cheap airline, but they've also been very friendly. They've been some of the friendliest people I know on the airline. So I don't know. I wonder if it's a situation where Kevin Smith got a little inconvenienced and a little embarrassed and he's going off, or if they really did pull him out and say, hey, can we talk to you? And then pull them aside and say, you're going to have to forfeit this flight because you exceed our weight limit. And I don't want the plane being brought down by some big motherfucker who's sitting next to me because he's exceeding the weight limit. So, I'm not blaming anybody here. I just thought it was funny. And Kevin Smith is actually having a sense of humor about it. I mean, he's making jokes about his own weight. He's saying things like they opened the wall and they crane lifted him out the plane and all this kind of stuff. So at least he's being that cool. But I don't know if he should just be going on and on and on about a tangent on Southwest. I mean, I don't know what good that's going to do him. People are not going to stop flying Southwest because Kevin Smith got angry about it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
He did propose a challenge, though. I would like to see this. He said he would come on the Daily Show, and he would have them put the seats down on the Daily Show, and if he fit in one seat, I guess like you said, without spilling over anything, he would donate $10,000 to charity. However, if he didn't fit, I'm sorry, if he didn't fit in that seat, he'd donate $10,000. If he did fit, then Southwest will come out and have to say that they're wrong, which they've already kind of apologized, I think. So I don't know what good this is doing.
It was funny. Normally I kind of ignore the cynical, the really overly cynical ravings of Devin Faraci from Chud, but he did kind of make a really good point last night when all of this was happening. He's like, oh, look at this. Kevin Smith is caught in a controversy a week before his movie comes out. That's so weird.
Yeah, that could be the case too. I think Kevin Smith is smart enough to where he's not the type of guy who needs to do that. He doesn't need to actually create controversy for his film. And look, me, I'm not the biggest Kevin Smith fan in the world. I only like 2 of his movies.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not at all. And it's not personal. I just don't like his movies because I just don't. But I like 2 of them. I like 2 of his movies very much. And I'll tell you, I think Kevin Smith is one of the quickest and wittiest and smartest people out there as far as directors go and public speakers. So I don't think he's smart enough to where he doesn't have to go out there and create controversy for his film.
I agree, although it is you gotta take a look at that. He is playing this up quite a bit, and it's not like this came out of the blue. It's not like somebody else reported it and then he commented on it. No, he was the one that reported it through Twitter, and he's the one that threw a big fit, and now we're talking about it on our show.
Yeah,
he is very smart, and I think that he saw it as an opportunity to probably get a jump because he thought it might get reported anyhow, and by getting a jump on it and using his anger, he could also kind of control the story and also have his name out there a week before Cop Out is released.
Yeah, and I have to say, I mean, even Kevin Smith fans who are diehard Kevin Smith fans are saying that looks ridiculous. That movie looks bad. Any comment? Or you so quiet?
I'm not certain yet. I've heard good things about the script. I hear it was really funny, and I know for a fact that Smith loves buddy cop comedies from the '80s, and I'd like to. I want it to be good, but then again, I like Kevin Smith, and I always want his movies to be good. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not judging. I mean, look, I'm not gonna look. They put trailers out there for us to kind of judge the movie by. So if I had to judge the movie by this trailer, I'm saying that the trailer makes this movie look terrible. Now I'm gonna be fair and go in and see if the movie is gonna be fun. Hey, look, I love Tracy Morgan and I like Bruce Willis. So there's two things right there that I like, but they just look annoying as shit in that trailer. I'm hoping that the movie is not like that trailer, that there's some surprises there. That's all I'm saying. So I'm being fair. I'm not biased against Kevin Smith at all. I'm just going by the movies that I've seen, and I don't hold every movie against him. I'm hoping that he does something different with this, because we have not seen him do a cop buddy movie yet.
No.
So you want to get into some email?
Well, before that,
I'm sorry.
No. I wanted to follow up on something because I didn't get to tell you the funny part of the horrible story that I had because it wasn't appropriate at the time. But so I'm on this flight, right, and I've got before this morbidly obese person sits down to sit next to me, an entire women's basketball team gets on the plane. All of them tall, athletic, and beautiful. It's unbelievable girls just getting on, all 6 feet tall, beautiful, awesome. Their coach, a guy, sits down. He's the one sitting in the same row as me, sitting on the outside. We exchange a few pleasantries. We, chit-chat for a moment. And all the girls keep walking by because no one wants to have to sit next to the coach without sitting next to one of their teammates. So I'm literally watching as all these beautiful women are walking by, and the person who decides to sit down is this 350-pound woman.
Jesus,
and it
man.
it was literally one of those "you've got to be fucking kidding me" moments.
Yeah, you were that guy at the time. You were just unlucky.
I'm sure I had that grin on my face, like, oh yeah, we're gonna have some hot basketball chick sit down. Get on. And God's like, oh no, not today, my friend. You were about to have the worst flight of your fucking life.
You thought a hot basketball chick was gonna sit next to you. Instead, you got a linebacker.
You try to sleep on the plane, and that kid got sat next to you. This is worse than that.
Your luck was up that day, man. Somebody had to pull that ticket from the lottery, and it was you. You got the fat chick lottery ticket that day, and you were the winner.
Yeah,
and it was your prize.
The thing is, I think it was a karmic thing because on the next flight, I got sat next to a Texas roller girl.
Oh, okay. We'll see. It all
worked out. Which was fucking cool because then I got to talk to a fucking roller girl. So.
I know. It's almost like God said, "Okay, there you go. Shut your mouth."
Yeah, it's like, here you go. You're paid up now. Our bill is even.
Yeah, we're even. Shut the fuck up.
It was just so rough because it's all these tall, thin women walking by. It's like, hey, I could have one of them sit next to me. No.
Instead, you got boom.
And the worst part was the woman, she had to get an extension for her seatbelt and then couldn't figure out how it worked. I had to help her put her seatbelt on. It was fucking awful. I mean, it really was. So, I mean, this is why I'm torn on this issue is I've been that guy stuck in that situation, trapped in the corner of the plane without being able to breathe, without being able to type, because you can't get your elbows up because their belly is right there where your elbow is supposed to go. And, it's a real problem, and that's something that you run into on Southwest, which the problem with Southwest is because they don't have assigned seats, you can't just up and buy 2 seats like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, they might sell you 2 seats, but you have to wait in line, and then you have to get on, and you have to take whatever seat you can find.
You gonna eat those peanuts?
Yeah, I was like 90th in line to get on the plane one time, and on this flight, and I had checked in 24 hours in advance. I mean, this is literally one of those things that the people that fly, they check in at the earliest possible moment so they can get on the plane as soon as possible and secure their seats. And it's it was a bad enough situation. I am not going to fly Southwest again unless I absolutely have to.
So for those of you who think it's a really cool thing to sit by Kevin Smith, remember this story right here from Carla.
You might get tweeted.
Yeah. So anyway, man, no, excuse me. You want to get into some tweets and emails?
Sure, I got some tweets for you.
Hey, let me say something here. No tweets from Metal Virgin. She tweets every week.
Oh no, she doesn't tweet every week. That's the thing. The last few weeks, she's also asked really good questions, and that's why I sit through the questions and look for the questions that fit best with what I think you and I can talk about for a while.
No, I love that girl. Don't get me wrong. It's nothing against her.
No. I don't want to show favoritism. There have been several weeks where she's asked questions that did not fit, and I just skipped over it. It's all about the question, not who asks. I read the question and then I take a look at who asked it. But let's start with Grog42.
Okay.
Who asks, would you like to see a Star Trek TV series set in the same timeline as the new movies?
Go ahead.
I would love to. I absolutely love what they've done. I like the new timeline, and the one really downer about the way that they've set this up is we're not going to get much time to explore this new universe, this new timeline, because we're only going to be able to get a new movie every 2 to 3 years. And we're not going to have movies for very long because, well, the cast is going to age. And once you've done 3 or 4 movies, all of a sudden the young Kirk is now, the pushing middle age Kirk. And I think we're probably going to get 2, maybe 3 more movies out of this franchise, and I would like to explore what a post Romulan attack universe looks like. Because essentially what they've set up is a post 9/11 Star Trek universe. It's a darker, harsher, more militaristic, fearful Starfleet, and that's something we haven't seen before. It's very new. It's cool, and I would like to see that.
Yeah, I think it's a different angle on Star Trek that we have not seen, and they have created another universe. So why would you not want to explore that? The only thing is that I don't know. I look at the movie, and we've been introduced to this universe through the movie, not the other way around like some of these other series. I mean, we saw the series and we got to see like the amped up version on the screen, and I'm just don't want it to be. I don't want to see it scaled down to a point where it looks cheap because we're so used to seeing it so big on the screen. Of course, that's not going to matter if they create some good stories. So I'm always saying, like, yeah, if you can write some good stories and you can keep these characters interesting, why would I not? I'm not going to argue against anything that people can do well. So sure, why not?
Okay. Why don't you guys put all the audio? This is from Dylan9094. Why don't you guys put all the audio reviews, including raw audio, for the video reviews on iTunes?
Well, right now, I haven't been putting up the audio because we haven't had a good place to put all that audio, and our audio is disappearing after 100 pieces of audio content has been posted on the site, which means that, and I've explained this before, when we put up a new piece of audio, whatever's last on that list of 100 pieces of audio, whatever's last disappears. And so right now we are creating a new carousel and a new system of cataloging our audio, and at the moment I just haven't wanted to overcrowd the site or make stuff just go away really quick from carousel images on the front page because of we have too much stuff. That audio content's always going to be there. I'm thinking about populating our catalog with that audio once we get our new overhaul of the site. So once that starts happening, then the audio will go to iTunes. I know people are very frustrated because we haven't been putting up the audio, and people just bear with us because you don't know what's going on. I can't blame you, but we are very conscious of that, and we've been trying for months now to figure out a way around it, and we just found a solution. We're going to get a new player too, which will help us with that. We're going to be on something called Bright Cove, so. Hopefully that will satisfy people who keep asking for the audio, because I would love to put up the audio also myself. So there you go.
Okay, so Let's Go Broncos asks, hey guys, what are your thoughts on the upcoming remakes, The Crazies and A Nightmare on Elm Street?
Well, I know you have a lot of thoughts about that, so why don't you go ahead?
Well, actually, it's really simple. I'm excited about both of them for different reasons. One, The Crazies is a perfect example of what I consider to be a perfect remake. Conceptually, The Crazies, if you go back and watch the original Crazies, it's not a really great movie. It's got a great premise, but George Romero, who directed it, was hamstrung by the budget. He was still a young director and still hadn't learned everything that he ultimately learned to make some really great films. And I feel that it's one of his weakest films. And it was a film that I saw on the big screen several years back at a Romero Fest. And watching it, I just couldn't help but think, man, I would love to see a remake of this. So when they announced it, I was like, hey, great. And then when I found out that it was directed by Breck Eisner, who did Sahara, which if you haven't seen Sahara, Sahara was actually really fun. He did a really solid job adapting is it a Clive Cussler book? Is that the name of the guy who wrote it? Anyhow, made a really fun movie, used Rainn Wilson before most people knew who Rainn Wilson was. It was like his first year on The Office, and he's really funny in the movie, and he captured just some great stuff out of the various actors like Steve Zahn and Matthew McConaughey. And so seeing that he did this and then watching the trailer and knowing the material, I have a strong feeling that that's going to be a cool movie. Then, of course, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's one of those movies that it's a really, really great film that's really dated. I remember showing my wife that movie. She had never seen it growing up. And I was like, how have you not seen Nightmare on Elm Street? I got to show you Nightmare on Elm Street. And we watched it, and she's like, yeah, that was cool, but it wasn't really scary. Now, the next morning, she came to me and she's like, oh, my God, I kept having dreams all night. And it's like, yeah, that's what Nightmare on Elm Street does. But she admitted that it was a scarier idea than it was a movie. I mean, there's that silly scene where Freddy Krueger's coming through the wall, and you can tell that it's latex. And it's just an actor going through latex. So I think that it's also primed for a remake, and the fact that they got someone really awesome like
Jackie Earle
Haley to play Freddy Krueger, it's something I want to see. And again, I like remakes. I look at them like cover songs. Nobody is going to come to your house and take your copy of Nightmare on Elm Street away just because they're making a new one, and nobody's going to twist your arm and force you to see this one. You might go, but I'm a movie fan, I have to see it anyway. Well, all right, then shut up. Then go see it and quit your bitching if you feel you have to see it. But personally, I think I have hopes for both of these.
Yeah, the only thing that I have against remakes is if they don't try to do anything different, or if they just try to cover what was most popular about the predecessors and condense it into like one thing, like a greatest hits type film. That was what was my problem with Friday the 13th. And I didn't like that movie because it just seemed like, oh, we're taking all the highlights of this and just throwing them in there just to get a response out of people instead of just making a cool film. It didn't really do anything different. If Nightmare on Elm Street does something different with it, which I can improve on some of the things that made because I'm with you, man. I thought the first movie, it was a creepy idea, but I didn't see it when it first came out. I saw it years later, and by that point, I had seen a lot of the other movies, and that movie it wasn't as scary to me as it was for some people. I saw it, and I was just like, this is actually kind of goofy in some parts, but great idea. My favorite movie out of it is Dream Warriors out of the whole series.
Oh, Dream Warriors is awesome.
Yeah,
Frank Darabont worked on that one.
Yeah, he did, and with the screenplay on that, and I thought that was a great. It wasn't so much even a horror film. It was almost like an adventure fantasy film almost.
It was because it did that great flip flop where it put the power in the hands of the characters of the characters could actually fight back against Freddy, and it made Freddy scary again. Now, what's interesting is you mentioned that they should do something different. I know for a fact that they're trying to do something different. Whether it all works out in the final release, we'll see. But one of the things they talked about was the fact that the first version of Nightmare on Elm Street was sanitized by the studio because they were afraid of ooking people out with the whole child molestation aspect. And so Freddy was just a child murderer, not a child molester and murderer. And, being that is so pervasive in our culture now, you can actually get away with that and allow Freddy to be more disturbing on a more primal level.
Yeah.
And I think that's a cool angle to go with, that this isn't just a guy who's angry because he got murdered. He's a guy who was really fucked up to begin with and really a terrible, terrible, horrible, nasty person who has been granted a supernatural ability to come back and fuck with kids again.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
Well, that's what I'm saying about remakes. I agree with you. I'm not a hater of remakes when people want to do them. If I think that they're doing something to finesse the film that where it was lacking before, like in the case of The Crazies, you're right. I like The Crazies. I like the George Romero film, but it could use a lot of polishing. And I think that's one of those films that could use a remake, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to judge these remakes based on how they are for me. Again, like I'm not going to criticize Nightmare on Elm Street because it's a remake. And I know a lot of people are, because that movie has, it is now a legendary film. But like you said, if they can go in and make something creepier, or if they can make it more tragic, or if they can make it scarier, I'm all for that. And I think a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of needs it at this point. So you, what else you got?
Well, why don't we go to a question from you? We're actually running out of time.
Oh yeah, we are at the hour mark here. So we got a question from Johnny Appleseed. Wishes us a happy Chinese New Year. And this is a real easy question, man. We don't have to dwell on this too much. This is a good question to take us out. Every year people ask us what our favorite Valentine's Day movies are, our favorite romantic films, and I think we all, both of us have our really quick answer that we're just ready to give out. And Johnny Appleseed asks, he says, well, we also know it's Valentine's Day, and I was wondering, from a couple of Don Juans like yourself, can you recommend a movie that can get my lady friend in the mood? You want to answer?
Why don't you go first? Because that I'm a little unprepared for. Getting your lady friend in the mood. Well, is that a euphemism, or are you actually dating a girl?
I don't know what he's trying to do. I'm just going to take it as he wants to make out with his friend. Now it depends. If you're of age and your friend is a freak and you want to get down with a raw and nasty, then go rent a porn. But if you want to if she's a classy girl, and well, look, what am I talking about? I prefer the freaks. I don't want to make them sound like they're not classy. But if your girl likes romance, and that's the thing that's going to get it for her, then I would recommend my favorite romantic comedy, which is. I was about to say Love Actually. That's yours. God damn it! I love it so much I can't remember the name of it. God,
it's that awesome.
It's that awesome. Jesus Christ! Jump Tomorrow is probably not just a romantic comedy for me, but it's a very romantic film. Period, and that's what I would recommend. Has it's one of the first times I saw the lead singer of TV for the radio. Before he was a singer, he was in this movie as a lead actor, and it's a very sweet independent film. And
yeah, but it's not a lady friend mood movie.
So what would you think is a lady friend mood movie?
Well, it's a real toss up. I mean, my instincts would lean towards The Notebook, because The Notebook, it's a really solid film. It's actually really good. It's the best romantic film of the last decade, but I'm not certain. The problem with that film is you might end up with her crying.
That's what I was going to say. Why would you recommend that? You want to depress her?
Well, because it depends on. See, this is one of those situations, recommending a lady friend mood movie. It's different for everyone. I mean, that's like saying, can you recommend a movie that will scare my sister? It's like, well, who's your sister?
Well, can I tell you why? I do understand, but there's some elements there that could kind of work for a broad base of people. I mean, it might not work for everybody individually, but this is the reason why I say Jump Tomorrow, because Jump Tomorrow is not goofy. It's not over the top comedy. It's very subtle comedy. It's very sweet characters in the movie, and it makes you laugh. I mean, when it's done, your girl is not only going to be in a romantic mood because it's a very romantic film, but she's also going to be in a good mood. And look, if you make a girl laugh, that's something for some chicks. That's an aphrodisiac.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then but at the same time, a girl who's laughing, it doesn't actually put her in the mood to, put her in your arms, whereas if she's crying, it's so much easier to put your arms around her and comfort her, and there, baby, I'm here for you. And then, once she gets the good cry out, you're still holding her, and you start stroking her hair, and the next thing you know,
old Jed's a millionaire.
That's right.
No, I can see it working that way.
Hey, you don't put it there.
I just had experience where girls when they get in that mood, they just like, can I talk to you later? I'm just like,
I mean, it's always a gamble. Like, I remember when me and my wife were dating, I got What Dreams May Come, and I was like, oh, this will be great. We'll watch a nice romantic movie. It's cool. It's about a guy in the afterlife. It'll be awesome. And we'll sit down and watch it, and then we'll fall. We'll go to bed. We'll be in each other's arms. It'll be great. And instead, she cried for 2 hours straight. Oh my God, you're gonna die on me and leave me forever. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And it was literally one of those most awkward post-movie moments of my life. 2 hours she cried while I comforted her.
Oh, you're right. It's a gamble.
No play. I mean, it was.
Yeah, because you're right. It's a gamble. Like, some girls might appreciate that you are sensitive enough to rent something like The Notebook, and they appreciate that. But then you take the risk of them just being just really sad, and I mean.
You could always, you know what I would do with The Notebook? I would start trying to make out with her when they hook up towards the end of the movie before we get back to them as old people, because that might actually totally work for you. Because it's totally romantic up until that point. Until it's so uber romantic that you explain the plot to people and people's hearts break. I mean, if you start getting things started early, that may totally work for you.
Maybe you'll get a chick who hasn't seen the movie. You could edit it down with all the happy parts and just be like, that's it, the end. But I heard it was a tragedy. No, you heard wrong. Those people, they don't have a sense of humor. This is a great movie.
No, the book was a tragedy, baby. If you read the book, you'll see it's got a different ending. But this one ends happy. In fact, it's about to end really happy.
Yeah, just get a drunk while you're watching the movie. I get the mood.
Trails to you until we meet again.
All right, you ready to get out of here then?
Happy trails to you.
I don't understand what you're trying to say. What are you talking about?
All
right, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everybody.